Welcome back to the channel. In this episode I'm going to be making the unit for the kitchen. As you can see, I have a fridge, I have a water heater, and I also have an RO filter that I'll be putting in under the sink. It's a 5-stage RO filter. It also has a pressurized tank. I'm hoping to put this on top of the water heater. Hopefully that fits. It's going to be tight. Yeah, so it will just about fit. It's going to be tight. There's not going to be a lot of room for storage here in the kitchen area, but I'm going to be putting shelving overhead, so there'll be lots of room for pots and pans, and also maybe I'll get some drawers in this section just above this area here. The first part that I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up for the frame of the fridge, and then I'll take it from there. Then I'll move on to this unit here and I'll take the measurements, and I also have to take into account the depth of the 2 gas burner hob that I'm going to be using in the build. So what I'll be using is this 2 burner hob. It's going to go on top of the fridge just like that. I need the frame of the fridge to clear 18.5 inches. 18.5 inches is the depth, so when I sit this down onto the countertop that it's not going to hit off any frame. So let's get cracking on that and see how it turns out. Right, so I now have the basic frame for the kitchen unit constructed, and what I've done is I've done it in 2 sections. So I've done it the back section and then this front section. It hasn't been screwed to the back section, so if you see here, so basically like the front frame hasn't been screwed to the back part. And the reason I've done that is because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay this on the bench, this front section. So what I'll do is I'll get an equal distance on either side of the Belfast sink, and then I will mark it where the Belfast sink is going to be in the middle. That's where I'm going to cut so the Belfast sink can actually slot in, and I will then create the frame around the Belfast sink. I've got an equal distance on either side of the frame, 262mm either side of the frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it. So now I have it marked up, cut that with the chop saw. So basically I'm going to cut out the space for where the Belfast sink is going to sit into. So it's the next day, and unfortunately it started to piss rain yesterday, and it rained for the entire day. I only got to record a small bit of footage outside. Then I had to move the saw into the van and finish off the rest of the kitchen unit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through how I constructed the frame, and I know it's going to be different for your van build or for your kitchen unit, but hopefully it might give you some ideas of how to construct your own kitchen unit, and also how to install a Belfast sink or a farmhouse sink, whatever you want to call it. This is the unit that I completed last night, and I think when I left you I had this back section done. So I basically had this 2x1 with the legs. I think that's a 2x2 What I did was I cut the leg short for this, the wheel well box. So I cut that leg short at the back here, and then I had these two cross beams or cross supports, whatever you want to call them, 1, 2, all done yesterday when I finished up recording. I had that done, and then the front section I had this front leg, and I had it going all the ways across the opposite leg on the left. And then what I did was I measured up the distance of the Belfast Sink, which is there, farmhouse sink, Belfast Sink. And what I did was I had this separate to the back section, so I just had that back section in by itself, and none of this was in. And then what I did was I got this front section and I placed it on that, took the measurements, and then I cut it there and there on the chop saw. Then what I did was I constructed this separately, so I added on this leg onto this one here, so then that just became one separate section. And I did the same with this. I added on this leg here, so I cut out the joint the exact same way as I did for this joint. And then what that does is it allows you to glue it here and then screw it in from the back with pocket hole screws. So then that gives you this frame on the opposite side, so then you have two frames the exact same on either side. And what I did was I then just added in two cross section beams, yoke bobbies here, and I screwed them in to the front. You can see the pocket hole screw, this one, and then I screwed this one in to this one, and then I screwed it in at the back using, I think they're pretty heavy, they're 4.5 by 40mm screws into the back, glued and screwed the same here, two, and then one in the front. And the reason I put one in the front for here all the ways along the front is because I've got two screws, two pocket hole screws going in from this one to the front leg. So obviously if I put a screw here and screw here, it would just go straight into that. So I put it in the middle, added put plenty of glue in it, and that's going to go nowhere. So that's what I did, and then that allowed me then to create this center section where the Belfast Sink will actually rest onto. So what I did was I just cut a cross beam for the front that the Belfast Sink will be resting on. Did the same process, I notched out. Then at the back, if you can see, I did two pocket hole screws in at the back, glued and screwed that either side. The next thing I did was I constructed this frame, and that's 2x2. Yeah, that's pocket hole screws, so from underneath on either side I've got screws going in to the wood this side. So these come all the ways down to the bottom here, and then it goes across. And then at the top I pilot drilled two screws. They're 4.5 by 40mm screws, lots of glue. And then what I did was I did these two cross beams. They're going to go either side of the drain. I did the same thing for these, but I pocket screwed them and glued them. So now that will give me a nice base to rest my Belfast Sink on. So let's stick it in there and see what it looks like. There we go. What I did was I measured it that it would be just below the lip of the frame. I think it's like 4 or 5 mil, 4 mil or something. So then when the worktop goes on top, that you can actually bring the worktop right over the actual edge of the Belfast Sink, right up to the edge of it. That just gives it a really cool look. For the front, what I did was I let it overhang. I let it overhang by about 23 mil, and again that just gives it a lovely appearance, because obviously you want to show as much as the sink as you can. I can now put a piece of ply. So what I'll do is I'll get some ply and put some ply backing on that, and then that will give this a bit extra support and stop it from going backwards. I probably Sikaflex it in, have this sealed off back here with a bit of ply will be better. And then, so what I'll be doing is I'm going to be putting in a shelf just above this Truma Ultra Store water heater. Really, I probably only have a drawer here, and then maybe some shelves here